Good morning, everybody. This is James Morris. It's Thursday morning's edition of Ask the Master Auto Technician. And we survived the holidays. I don't think we have another holiday till what, Labor Day? That's our next holiday off. But anyway, good morning, Rob. How are we doing today in St. Joe?
I am doing just great, James. How are you?
I said St. Joe, but it's really, you're just over the border past Mexico Beach, and you can see Bay County and St. Joe. You're right in between that area. You're kind of in the, not quite St. Joe, not quite Mexico Beach. Is that right?
It is. I'm with you in spirit. Not physically. I'm almost just a couple of steps over the line.
I remember a song back in the 70s, One Step Over the Line. Maybe that's where you are. Now, it's been an exciting weekend. I mean, I should say exciting week because we've been hearing all the negatives about the President Trump out there. And I'll be honest with you, I've been hearing some positives that I think the media just doesn't like to talk about. But unfortunately, they're having to talk about it because it is news. And I know you like to talk about that. So I've just figured I'd lead that up to you, what's happening out there. So tell us what's
well, of course, news. Yeah. The media has been so negative for so long. In fact, I think for most of the last week I did it, James. I just turned it off most of the time because there really was nothing new. And actually, it's been a rather apolitical few days. On the day before yesterday, Apalachicola had their fireworks display on the evening of, on the July 3rd evening. And so my wife and I and a couple of friends went down there and I enjoyed some really nice haddock. We had, by prior agreement, politics is not discussed by anybody.
Good. That's a smart thing to do. It really is.
So a really nice evening was spent on the lawn by the river, and really great fireworks, and it was enjoyable. And the only folks who were unhappy is when we got back to the house, the dogs and the cats hadn't had any attention for 5 hours, but I upset them. So, but we had that taken care of. But, and good haddock. I must say, I had one of these large pieces of lightly battered fried haddock and chips, and it was so good. After pouring malt vinegar all over the whole thing, I had to go back and get another haddock. Couldn't stand another potato, but it was really good fish. So,
well, I want to let you know. Before I forget, the Texas delegation from Libertarian Party of Texas delegation, they contacted everybody that they knew of down in New Orleans for the National Convention and wanted to know how you were doing. They hadn't heard from you in so long. They said, "How's he doing?" They didn't know if you died, moved back to Alaska, or what. I said, "He's fine. He's enjoying life on the Redneck Riviera, and he's having a great time over here. And I'll pass on y'all's concerns about him. But give him a call. Before I forget, I want to let that be known."
Well, that's very nice. But now you were not in New Orleans at the National Convention.
No, but I have people. No, but I have people that were contacting me and messaging me what the rules are, what they're talking about. What I thought about this, what I thought about that. And personally, I just said, "I'm not there. You make your own decisions." I said, "That's the best thing." I said, "I'm not there." So, but yeah, it was interesting that. When we have the national conventions, you see people you only see every couple of years, and a lot of people were saying, "Oh, how's Rob doing?" And I said, "Well, he's doing well." They actually contacted me by email and said, "How's he doing?" I said, "He's fine, he's okay." And I gave him your how to get up with you and on Facebook or whatever. But they just wanted to make sure you're still alive. They just hadn't heard from you.
Well, that's very nice to hear. I have after the last election, I just stopped even looking at Facebook and decided. I was going to not sort of participate in the continual, dialogue back and forth. I just decided to take a rest, and frankly, I've enjoyed taking the rest from that.
Yes.
It enables me to still mouth off through your kind channel and tell you what I think is screwed up in Washington, but I just don't feel that, I had a decision to make on whether or not to go to New Orleans because I have not missed a national convention for quite a while.
That's right.
I just decided that enough was enough. But it's nice to know, and I obviously, I did look at the LP Texas webpage a month or two ago to see who's, doing what. And I'm quite amazed. In the 2.5 years since I left Texas, more than half of the 264 county chairs, they have 264 counties in Texas, rather large. More than half of them have changed over, and so obviously there are some old stalwarts, but a whole lot of new blood folks that I don't know. And it was fun while I was there, James. I had the opportunity to serve as their volunteer executive director, and being newly retired, I got all over the state. It's a big state.
It is a big state. It really. I had 200 and how many counties you say there were in Texas?
264.
We only have what 76, 77.
We have 67 counties.
67 counties. I know. So that's just a fraction, but it's what they have. But that's amazing to have that many counties out there. But one of the things that I did notice that a lot of people are thinking. Well, they're thinking about we need to be more focused on our local elections, more focused on trying to win, whether it's water management or dog catcher or county commissioner, instead of going for state senator or president. And and I say, well, you know what? All politics are grassroots. Everything is local, and if you really don't work on your local, you really can't grow. But that's about the only thing I can say about that. But one thing, even though I'm not a Republican, I'm a Libertarian, I do have to admit that Donald Trump has made me kind of look at it and go, I'm kind of glad to see that when Justice Kennedy is stepping down, that we're going to get someone in there that will allow states to have rights. Everybody says, we're worried about Roe v. Wade going away. I don't think we got to worry about it going away. I think we got to worry about, if you got to worry about it, the state you live in, will they make it legal or make it illegal? It'll be their choice. I think that's what's going on. And what was the other one? Schools are not having to judge qualifications by the color of your skin. The same thing that Martin Luther King said, one day a man will be judged by his character, not by the color of his skin. And this is one of the things they're saying. Schools do not have to take in race in account to make sure if you can qualify to go to school, because a lot of reverse discrimination, I think, we're talking about affirmative action. I think now that's being pushed aside, where you make advancements on your own merits, regardless of whether you're black, white, yellow, green, it doesn't matter. And I think that's the way it should be. What did I tell someone?
Well, I agree with you on that. And in fact, I think the impetus for the change, and it's not a change, it's not a Supreme Court decision. No. It is the president reversing a poorly thought through executive order that Obama threw out there.
Yes.
And he tried to force and give unfair priority to African Americans. And Harvard implemented that policy, and a group of Asian Americans complained that they were being disenfranchised by this African American preference. So they reversed it after the president basically canceled Obama's executive order.
Well,
and,
I think
it's a good thing. I do feel that the president is bringing common sense to so much of what went wrong in the last administration. And although you and I would have preferred Gary Johnson to have been elected president, it wasn't going to happen. Yeah. And given the alternative, we certainly have a good result with our current president by the vast majority in cases.
I think it's exciting because of the fact that people, I've told someone, I was at a family reunion the other day, and they said, one thing I remember from your television show, you were talking about the largest minority. And I said, yes, the largest minority. He said, the largest minority is the individual. And I said, that's correct. And that's what a lot of people don't realize. It's the individual. People should advance on their own merits. That's what not in a class warfare type thing. And people say, well, why does the Libertarian Party, why do y'all say that? It's because we don't believe that people should be put in classes, because every time you put someone in a class, you're giving them special privileges, special rights. And that's not the way it's supposed to be. Our founding fathers built this on individuals that decided that we want to come together and we have individual ideas, but we want to work together. And I think that's a great thing that's happening. I hope that people will start talking instead of screaming at each other. I think that's the only way we're going to make a difference, and when people start talking. And I think this is what the pendulum is doing. We've swung one way so hard that no one's listening, that we're going to have to start swinging back, where people are going to have to start talking to each other. And so I think it's just evolution of the political system and evolution of human beings. And I think that we may have a brighter future ahead of ourselves in America, because I know my business is doing well, and I think Wall Street and everybody on Main Street saying their businesses are doing well. And I don't really hear anybody really complaining about business right now, not like I did a few years ago. Are you hearing anything?
Well, I certainly agree with you on the business side of things. Of course, as you pointed out at the top of the conversation, the far left is going berserk with these negative, whatever it is that they can think of negative, make it up. It doesn't have to be true.
Mm-hmm.
And the noise gets louder and louder. And we have 4 whole months before November the 8th, before Election Day. And I assume since they don't have a good message, one hasn't come out yet, since they don't have a leader. Let's face it, Schumer and Pelosi are old generation has-beens. So I think they're just going to keep making noise, and then after the election, when they are soundly trounced, he says, crossing his fingers, hopefully they will shut up for a while, but I just don't see, they got nothing else to do, and they, vent their frustrations by being ridiculous and alienating even more people, and I don't understand what the end game is. I guess they get pleasure out of just making noise. It's very disappointing, disheartening to see that it seems less and less that folks are able to discuss their differences rationally, calmly, without going off the deep end like so many of these folks on the left do.
Well, I think there's hope for us. I really do. I was there for a while. I was starting to say, man, we're only going to get worse. No, I really, really think that I think people are starting to see that we've got to do something. We got to do something that we start talking to each other. That seems to be the biggest problem. And normally when there's a disagreement between two people, one of the things I found out, there's an unknown third party that's not being mentioned that's causing the disagreement. And I think there's a lot of unknown third parties that's causing this disagreement that we're having between the Republicans and Democrats. A lot of it might be just, kabuki theater, I don't know. But the thing is, we're going to have to start talking and listening. That's why God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth, where we can listen twice as much as we talk. I don't know if that's ever going to happen, but we're going to have to start letting people realize that their opinions to them are important, and our opinions to us are important, but that doesn't mean we need to belittle someone just because we disagree with them. And that seems like we've lost all decorum here in the last, I want to say in the last 4 or 5 years we've lost. I think everybody's gone nuts, but I think we're getting better. I do see hope for the future, and I really appreciate you out there seeing things that, you see things that I don't always look at, and I really appreciate your viewpoint on it.
I think the feeling is mutual, James. While you were talking, I was just thinking of something that Charles Krauthammer said, which is kind of like George Orwellian type of thought. But what he said was, so many conservatives look at liberals and think they're just plain stupid. In other words, they're not understanding the arguments from the left. And he said, so many liberals look at conservatives and think they're evil. If you think about those two things, it may be going some way to explain why the two sides just cannot understand the other's viewpoint. And I'll be honest with you, I do not understand the viewpoint of so many on the left, especially these extremists. It's not just that we disagree with them; it's that it's very difficult. It's impossible to get underneath their thought process to understand what the reason for their negativity is.
I agree, but once you start listening and starting to see their point of view, sometimes people actually change the way they think. Maybe both sides will change, and for the better. Who knows? There's always hope for tomorrow. And we got to go. We're up against the clock, Rob. Thank you so much for calling. We'll talk to you again next Thursday.
Part of what I'd like to let you know is what we do and how we work our system. Basically, we've got about 700 stocking dealers scattered around the 15 counties here in the Big Bend area of the state. I run a fleet of trucks, vans, and what we call hotshot vehicles to deliver to our dealers quickly so they can help service you as fast and efficiently as they can. Provide timely and efficient service, and we're there to take care of our dealers, who in turn can take care of their customers.
If you want the best deal in town for tires, you need to call Baytown Tires at 873-8900.
Hanson and the guys at Baytown Tires take pride in serving Panama City for over 20 years. Baytown Tires on Highway 98 in St. Andrews. All service work backed by a nationwide warranty.
Water is too powerful to fight alone. Mr. Router Plumbing. Sink, shower, and toilet emergency drain services.
All right, welcome back to our show. This is James Morris. I got Frank Sundram calling all the way from, where are you calling from, Frank?
The old airport in Panama City.
I had no idea. Sometimes you call from Kentucky, St. Augustine, Maine. You just never know where this man's calling from. But anyway, are you driving around in your motorhome that you did the air conditioning work on successfully?
Oh, no. We are stalled on the fuel injection project by a couple of pesky fittings, but we're almost we're closing in on it.
Now, closing in on it.
Closing in on it.
Well, good.
But today's topic is, what is the most popular vehicle being sold today?
Well, we know it can't be a car, so it's got to be a truck.
Light trucks.
Well,
light trucks are what are selling.
What is it, 2 to 1?
2 to 1.
Yeah, can you believe? Who would have thunk that 20 years ago? I mean, now, how many? I was talking about Fiat Chrysler. They're going to only make what, 2 cars?
Something like that.
Yeah.
But here's the salient thing to remember.
Yeah.
The trucks today are not what they were when you and I were growing up.
True. They're not. They're much nicer, and they ride much nicer, and they're much more safer. Now they still don't have all the safety features like cars do. I don't think they have side impact bags. I may be wrong, but a lot of trucks don't have. I don't know if they have 5-star crash ratings or not on trucks. I know a lot of the crossovers do. But I don't know about trucks per se. But I know that they're outselling 2 to 1, and there's got to be a reason for it. I think people, especially in the South, people like trucks. I mean, I looked in my shop the other day, and I had all 10 stalls full, and 8 of them were crossovers or trucks, and only 2 of them had cars. And I'm going, whew,
yes,
this is about how it is.
Well, you're just the guy to talk to this morning because you might remember what's happening elsewhere in our society. They are selling, if you go to buy a pair of pants, they're selling more 60-inch waist pants than they are 30 these days.
I don't, I wouldn't know that, but could it be because people are lazy and don't get out and exercise? Maybe why they're selling 60-inch waistbands?
I think it's fair to say that people these days carry more weight with them and leave it there. But so
that's why they need a truck. Okay, that makes sense. That's why they need a truck.
We're gonna draw a trend line. So nowadays, when they build furniture, they have to build furniture to be much stronger to handle the people who weigh roughly twice as much as they did 40 years ago.
You're right. I look at pictures from when I graduated from high school, and there were very few people overweight in high school. Matter of fact, we all looked like we were skinny. I thought we were overweight back then, but we were skinny compared to today's standards back in the 70s. But yeah, I'd say the average weight in my high school for a senior was maybe 135, 140, where I'd say the average weight of a high school senior now would probably be pushing 200 pounds. I may be wrong.
Very close.
I'm guessing.
Yeah, so we're drawing that line. We're drawing that line across society. So what happens is for slim fellows like you and me, it's very hard to find a pair of pants of our smaller waist size.
True, that is true. Yeah, I have to order mine from. Yeah, my wife orders them from Walmart. They don't carry it.
I go to a store, I just take the pants off a mannequin and I'm good. Okay?
I can do the same thing, but it doesn't always work that way, but you're right.
Yeah.
I think they say the average person is 25 pounds heavier than they were 20 years ago. I think we averaged about a pound per year, a little bit more than a pound per year, the average Americans gained in weight. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but the thing is, I think a lot of it has to do with our diets, reading a lot of processed food, reading a lot of, and I know this is the car show, but it all has to do about the type trucks we're buying. People want to have heavier duty trucks to carry them around and big enough room, where I guess small cars just don't have the room for them.
Well, they not only don't have the room for them, but it's just physically very hard to get into these low-slung sports cars, or something like that, where it's very easy to slide into an SUV or a CUV.
Yeah, you're right. Try getting my wife's Crossfire. That thing's a pain in the butt to get in and out of. It really is. It's too, even for me, it's hard to get in and out of it. It's for a small person. But a truck is a lot easier. I've had customers that say, I want a truck because I can slide right in like you're talking about. And maybe that's the reason right there. Yeah, it's got a lot of room, and you got lots of toys in there, lots of things, a lot of options.
And the last thing light trucks do, as opposed to 20 years ago, they get double the mileage now that they did 20 years ago.
Well, that's true. I will say yes, and they're more dependable. Trucks are vehicles are more dependable. Now, when they came out with the twin turbo V6 3.5, I think is what it is, Ford engine they put in the F-150s with direct injection, that to me was revolutionary. To me, that changed everything, because when did trucks start coming with twin turbos on them, much less direct injection? That was the very first time that had been offered. And I think it was in 2011 when they came out with, and those trucks are still holding their value. I've got people, well, they don't, I shouldn't say hold their value, trucks don't hold their value, but you still, if you want to buy a 2011 or 2012, one of these trucks, you're going to pay in excess of $17,000 to $20,000 for these cars. I mean, that's how expensive they still are, because there's such a demand for them. People want these trucks. They tow really, really well, and they get 17 miles to a gallon in town, and on the highway they get around 22, 23, I'm thinking. And that was unheard of 20 years ago, a truck getting that kind of mileage, and one that can pull, one that has torque. And this one this one can pull. It can carry a lot of weight. It can.
My first truck was a 1951 Ford pickup truck.
Okay, I'm trying to remember.
Okay, with an old V6 with an old straight six in it. Okay. Then my next truck was a 1987 Ford Ranger. Two vastly different, creature comforts.
Yes.
Air conditioning, shocks. It had those little toy rear seats in the back, but it was an amazing vehicle. But you were lucky to get about 22, 24 on the highway with that.
And it was a 4-cylinder.
That was a 6-cylinder. Six-cylinder.
Oh, that was a 6-cylinder Ford Ranger you had? Yes, right. You had a little Ranger 6-cylinder.
Yeah.
And you're right. Yeah. And it was.
But the creature comforts amazed me, because you and I grew up in a world where the pickup trucks were work trucks, and they were very crude.
Oh yes. Oh, absolutely. I mean, if you had air conditioning in it, was a luxury. I don't think I had a luxury. I don't think I had air conditioning in a car till 1978 or 79. Before I had a car that had air conditioning factory. It just was not a standard feature in the early 70s. Matter of fact, it didn't become a standard feature until, I want to say, around 1980. It was an option, because people at that time didn't think air conditioning was needed. It wasn't necessary, but they have found out now that air conditioning is actually a safety concern. It keeps you from getting hot, of course, that's comfort.
Yeah.
But it also keeps you from having road rage. When you're not irritable, you're not so, wanting to shoot people, I guess, if they pull out in front of you. And the third thing is, they're talking about it keeps your window defrost. Defrosted on cool mornings, or when it rains down here, where you don't have two little half moons you're trying to look at while you're driving. So it keeps gives you better visibility. So air conditioning is a safety improvement out there. So there's been some changes in trucks since you and I have been around on this thing out here. And you said you had a 51. Was your 51 a flathead, or was it overhead valve?
It was. I believe it was a flathead. I can't remember anymore.
I can't, but I know that was a turning point. Back in the 50s, we went from, early 50s, we went from flatheads to overhead valves.
Yeah.
And that was a really big game changer for mechanics, because that was completely different way of the engine being made. But now, from the 51s to 2011, 2012, there's been dramatic changes in the technology, the computers, the way the way the 4-cycle engine, the suck, squeeze, bang, blow of a 4-cycle engine gets its fuel and gets rid of the exhaust. It's nothing like it was back when you and I were growing up. The idea of having a turbocharger was if you saw a turbocharger, it was either on a Corvair, high performance Corvair, or I can't think of too many cars that had turbochargers on them, unless they were an exotic European car, like a Saab or something, but not very many. But turbos are now commonplace on just about, Well, on family cars, someone was telling me they had a Toyota van with a supercharger on it. It was an old one. I went, yep.
That was me.
That was you just telling me that. Yeah, you had a Previa?
That was me.
You had a Previa?
Previa, yeah.
What year was it? 90?
96.
96. Had a supercharger on it. That's ahead of its time. And, a little 4-cylinder engine with a supercharger on it. And that's how we're getting the power, the performance, the horsepower is by using turbochargers and superchargers and direct injection engines. And those direct injection engines are fantastic. Now, you don't have one in your Previa. You didn't have a direct injection engine, but man, those are going to be the future engines of tomorrow. They're out here today, but that's what I see happening in the next, the next few years. It's going to be direct injection engines hooked up with hybrid assist, with batteries.
Sure.
And that's where I see happening out there. But things are definitely changing. Go ahead.
Yeah, so we're going to box the circle. So so gas prices have, in the last year, have gone up about $1 a gallon on average.
Yeah, okay.
Okay? And they look to, as much as we're being told otherwise, they look to continue rising.
They do, true.
Okay? So the question becomes, is the magic number was always at $4 a gallon, people sprint to trade their trucks in to buy cars.
Yeah, they did that before.
And the economy, dare I say it out loud, is overdue for a correction after 9 years of improving. So the question becomes is, at what's the price point that gas is going to go and go up into $4 or more? It's already in places in Bay County very close to $3.
Oh yeah, non-ethanol gas is $3.39 right now. Non-ethanol, yeah, you're right.
Yeah. And so the next thing that happens is when the economy coughs, how many people are going to take and go and sprint to trade in for a Fiat 500?
Ooh, I don't know if they'll do the Fiat 500, but I do know that when we had the first oil crisis in 73, 74, I remember it happened then. Then we had another oil crisis in 1980. It happened then. We had another oil crisis that happened in, what is it, 94, 95? It happened then. I don't know. History keeps repeating itself.
I predict that that the people have become numb. That
The gas
$5 might be the price point. I'm thinking probably not even $5.
I don't see them changing. I don't see people throwing away their trucks until gas gets around $7 a gallon. That's what I'm thinking.
Well, it's something to contemplate where that's more than twice where we are. Of course, gas in California now is $4.20 a gallon.
And California's still buying the heck out of trucks, I bet. I bet.
Yes, they are.
And that's what I'm saying, even at $4 a gallon.
But while we're talking about the near demise of cars, guess who had the best car year of anyone last year?
Who? I have no idea.
Toyota sold more Camrys last year than they had any time before.
Well, Camrys are a very dependable car. I don't see why not. I mean, Camrys are very dependable. Again, we'll talk about that Monday, Frank. We got up against the clock. Let's talk about Toyota and why they sell so many cars versus trucks. I know they sell a lot of trucks too. All right, we got to go. We're up against the clock. We'll be talking to y'all tomorrow morning. If you got a question for us, give us a call, 850-763-0555.